I, F18, want to leave a toxic relationship with my boyfriend, M22. I find myself in a toxic relationship, and I urgently need guidance on how to navigate this situation without losing my sense of self. Hello, everyone. I am seeking your assistance. I have become involved in a toxic online relationship. I met him on Reddit, and what started as an innocent connection quickly turned into a nightmare that has profoundly affected me in ways I never anticipated. It's been nearly a year and a half since I first encountered him at the age of 17. He is a 21-year-old man whose views are so extreme and inflexible that they felt exhilarating at the beginning. His beliefs about relationships, religion, and life were absolute, offering no room for doubt. Everything was black or white. In hindsight, I can now clearly see those red flags waving, but at that moment, I was blind to them. I was captivated by his uniqueness and the self-assuredness he exuded. His intelligence, his eccentricities, his nerdiness, all of it drew me in and made him seem more appealing and safe. He felt like a refreshing change, someone who stood apart from everyone else, and I admired that. However, slowly and subtly, everything began to change. He started demanding more from me, more time, more energy, more of myself. I complied, not recognizing the unhealthy dynamic. It felt like we were falling in love, yet he pushed for it more fervently with each passing day. He desired this relationship. I had always been somewhat reserved, as this was my first experience with love, and the entire concept was unfamiliar. He hails from a different country, and it's crucial to emphasize that I was 17 while he was 21 when we began communicating. My life resembled a whirlwind. I was relocating, adapting to a new school and switching classes, all while striving for stability in a chaotic world. I failed to see the situation for what it truly was. I was vulnerable, and he recognized that, exploiting it to his advantage. Initially, our relationship had sweet, even enjoyable moments. We engaged in lengthy conversations, watched movies together, and shared music. It felt like I was opening up to someone in a way I had never done before. Yet, it was never genuinely innocent. Over time, our discussions grew darker and more sexual. He began pressuring me in ways that left me feeling uncomfortable. As time passed, he forced me into doing many things. The topic of relationships was of utmost importance to him. He wanted it so desperately, and after weeks and months of pleading, questioning, and pushing, I acquiesced. We entered a relationship, yet afterward he sought even more. He would tell me I wanted it, I needed it, that it was what I deserved. I would refuse, but he belittled me behind my back. When someone repeats the same falsehoods time and again over days, weeks, and months, it seeps into your mind. I started to doubt myself, began to question my feelings. Perhaps I did want it. Perhaps it was what I was meant to do. He constantly wanted more from me, and I mistakenly believed this was normal, that it was part of caring for someone. But with each demand, each boundary crossed, I sensed another piece of myself slipping away. The relationship shifted from a shared connection to a relentless pursuit of his overwhelming, suffocating needs. He twisted everything. His perspective was the only correct viewpoint, and he expected me to conform. Driven by a desperate desire for his approval and affection, I allowed him to reshape me into whatever he wished, and what he wanted was cruel. He had an obsession with inflicting pain, with reducing me to tears and suffering. Actions such as spanking, choking, and gagging became normalized for both of us, but it was never truly normal. Raised in a Christian household, my values and beliefs stood in stark contrast to everything he was imposing upon me. Yet, he convinced me that my discomfort, my disgust, were merely markers of personal growth. I was the one who needed to evolve. I became his possession, his project. Each time I attempted to establish a boundary, each time I pleaded for space, he would distort my words. I was selfish. I was wrong. I was insufficient. Ultimately, I was left in tears. He reassured me that he was educating me, that he was helping me, and I bought into it. His words ensnared my mind like barbed wire, slicing through my perception of reality until I could no longer discern truth from fiction. I began to believe I was the issue. If only I were better, stronger, more compliant, maybe it wouldn't hurt so much. Over time, he intensified his demands and manipulations. He would say things like, "Oh, you want to do this? No, that's not allowed." This mentality deepened over time. He attempted to control my actions, and the situation deteriorated day by day. We quarreled over trivial matters, simply because I shared my opinion or disagreed with him. It escalated increasingly, creating a toxic environment. There were weekends when I was preoccupied with work, and afterward, all I wanted was to rest due to the stress of school. Yet he began arguing with me, claiming he felt unloved and craved more attention. I would respond, "Hey, I can't give you more attention because I'm only human. Time management can be difficult." Consequently, he escalated his demands, becoming increasingly unkind, leading to marathon arguments. As time passed, I felt ensnared. By the time I recognized the situation for what it was already too late. His claws had embedded themselves deep within me. The pressure to be more and to give more grew unbearable. I felt as though I was drowning, unable to extricate myself. He recounted stories of his past relationships, revealing how he had manipulated other girls similarly. He took pride in it, boasting as if it were an accomplishment. Yet he claimed he wished to change for me, that he was now different. I yearned to believe him. I desperately wanted to trust that he could improve. However, deep down, I sensed it was all a facade. Still, I was entangled. One day, he sent me explicit photos of himself, and something within me shattered. He no longer attracted me, in fact, he revolted me. But by then, it was irrelevant. I was already ensnared in his web, and there was no escape. Even as I felt disgusted by him, recoiling from his image, I couldn't free myself. He exerted complete control over me. He started dictating everything: my wardrobe choices, my eating habits, my sleep patterns, my conversations, and when I could go out. He made choices on my behalf and criticized every word I uttered. Yet I remained. He was the only steady aspect of my life, albeit one that made it unbearable. Then he demanded explicit photos. I repeatedly declined. But he didn't relent, persistently asking, insisting, wearing me down until I felt too drained to resist. I wanted to leave, but he threatened self-harm if I did. Eventually, I relented to appease him, sending the requested pictures. Once I began, it never stopped. He perpetually craved more photos, more videos, more of me. At one juncture, he wanted me to appear on camera during our calls so he could see me. The situation became increasingly stressful, as he was always there to talk the moment I arrived home. Every free moment was consumed by him. I was unable to reclaim my attention. He wielded my photos like a weapon, threatening ruin if I attempted to break free from him. I was filled with trepidation. Sleep became elusive, it was forbidden. I struggled to eat and could not concentrate at school. My grades began to decline, my relationships crumbled, yet I still lacked the courage to confide in anyone about the truth. I felt too embarrassed, too frightened. Even when I had nothing left to give, he continued to take. He coerced me into performing acts on camera that left me feeling violated, broken, and shattered. I sobbed after every incident, yet he remained unfazed. Nothing could halt him. He possessed all the power, I was his. When I finally went to the authorities, desperate for assistance, they informed me there was little they could do. He resided in another country and everything unfolded online. Just block him, they advised. Move on. But how could I? He had control over my life, my images, my personal information. With a single click, he could obliterate everything. Then one day, he nearly did. Following particularly harsh arguments, I opted to ignore him. Hours later, he sent me a link. My heart sank. There it was, on multiple sites with my personal details and promises of explicit content. My world crumbled. I believed my life was over. I pleaded with him to erase it all. After hours of begging and weeping, he finally relented. I thought I had found peace, but I was mistaken. Even now, he continues to exert control over me. Every time I attempt to leave, he threatens to resurface the photographs. He claims he will retrieve them from his Google account where they are saved, insisting he will destroy my life if I walk away. If I choose to leave, he asserts he will end his life, stating he will ensure I shoulder the blame. He has taken everything from me: my confidence, my joy, my tranquility. He has left me with invisible scars, yet I feel them every day. I am confined within a prison built from my shame and his cruelty. I am unsure how to break free. I do not know how much longer I can continue to fight. The anxiety, the despair, the relentless fear, it is suffocating. I feel as though I have surrendered my identity to him, reduced to a mere shadow of my former self. How can this be love? How can someone who professes to care for me inflict such profound pain? I cannot breathe, think, or exist normally. I am drowning, and I am at a loss for how to rescue myself. I am frightened and I feel lost. I suffered a breakdown. My family intervened somewhat, assuring me that everything would be all right. We approached the police again, but due to his residing in another country, they took little action. The authorities were not particularly sympathetic. They did not genuinely assist me, leaving me feeling lost once more. Those who should have aided me did not seem to care. My family endeavored to do whatever they could, but with various issues at hand, they ultimately left it. It is now 2025, and I remain trapped in this situation. I am still entangled in this relationship that I do not wish to endure. I am terrified, unsure of how to escape, when to attempt it, or what actions to take. I need your insight. I require your assistance, and I am more than willing to provide additional details if it will help. I do not know how to express it, but he has created Reddit accounts with my full name, address, phone number, and everything else. He is prepared to share the pictures if I choose to leave him and is determined to ruin my life, which has hardly even begun. I am at a loss as to what to do, how to approach this. Currently, we are embroiled in yet another major argument because he expects me to partake in more inappropriate acts. The last time I sent him a picture was prior to my turning 18. Since then, I have not complied with his requests. He is the villain in this narrative, unable to accept that I do not want him. I refuse to be in a relationship where I am fearful, threatened, and entangled in such a bizarre situation. I possess his name, age, address, and knowledge of his university and future plans. I have information about him. But he also has information about me and is ready to use it against me. That terrifies me. I am turning to someone on Reddit for assistance, for advice, for a glimmer of hope. I do not know what to do. If you have any ideas, please reach out to me. I have contemplated various solutions. One of my ideas was to end my life, but even that he has said several times that he would wish for my demise, as then he could post the pictures and profit from it. Therefore, it would not be worthwhile. He would win, and I would leave my family behind. I even considered faking my own situation, as if I had ended it. But that is also impractical. He would likely investigate. Another idea was to find him another girlfriend, someone who could take my place. I realize this sounds desperate, but I truly believe it could be beneficial. His ego is so fragile that he cannot bear the thought of being alone. Thus, conceivably, I would only need to identify someone to act as a substitute, allowing me to break free. Yet even that raises doubts within me. I question whether I am strong enough to pass this burden on to another girl by involving her with someone so toxic. I am open to suggestions. Please, if there is anyone who can assist me, reach out. I feel trapped, sad, depressed, and traumatized. I would give anything for a semblance of help, and I am eager to escape this situation as swiftly as possible. Regardless of any actions I consider, it seems futile. I would genuinely appreciate someone to talk to as I grapple with the knowledge of what to do. I cannot share my situation with my family due to various aspects I cannot articulate without provoking their disappointment. I do not wish to hurt them, as I love them dearly. Therefore, if anyone is willing to listen to my experiences, I would be grateful. If there is anyone with advice, please message me or leave a comment. I am at a crossroads, unsure of what to do. I am pleading for guidance on how to escape. How do I regain control of my life when it feels as if it has been completely stripped away? I am frightened, desperate, and uncertain of the way forward. Story 2. Aita for not wanting my boyfriend's brother to treat us like shit. This is a lengthy post, but I ask that you stay with me until the very end. I am confident that by the conclusion, you will also feel frustrated with one of us. To provide some context, 2 years ago, we purchased a house, and his brother moved in with us. At that time, he was extremely stressed due to a cross-country move, which he could not afford, as well as finding a new job and dealing with a recent breakup. He would frequently yell about trivial matters and then apologize, claiming it was solely because of his stress. When we welcomed him into our home, we understood that he had transitioned from living with his mother, grandfather, and siblings, so we anticipated some adjustments in living conditions. However, we never expected to face such challenges. There were nights when I feared I would need to contact the police due to concerns that he might initiate a physical altercation with my boyfriend. I am incredibly grateful that it never escalated to that point, but the way this man communicates with others is astonishing. He often employs phrases such as, "I will punch you in the mouth," and "You are such a jerk," among others. My boyfriend and I do not speak that way to anyone, nor do we yell at each other. Therefore, having someone bring that kind of energy into our home was nothing short of shocking. Every disagreement arose over something as trivial as asking him to clear the lint trap or handle other minor household tasks. We could be relaxing in the backyard or in the living room, and he would burst in, yelling at us. I wish he understood that he cannot treat normal roommates the way he treats us, and I hope he would approach us with a bit more calmness, if not respect. During the first several months, we did not charge him rent and provided him with meals. When we finally had to stop that, he became furious. He refused to contribute to groceries while consuming as much food as my boyfriend and I combined. Instead, he proposed to occasionally cook for us, which was mathematically unfair and illogical. He is the same age as I am but lacks respect for the home and life that my boyfriend and I are building together. He does not contribute at all, which I do not necessarily expect from him, but given the way he treats us, one would think he would at least pull his own weight. He is the most significant user I have ever encountered. He takes and takes without ever replenishing or giving back to anyone. I could elaborate for days on the various hurtful comments he has directed toward me and my boyfriend, and the trivial incidents that he has blown up into major confrontations. Fast forward to multiple instances of persistent disrespect in what is supposed to be our home, causing us to walk on eggshells around him. He comes home, and when my boyfriend asks him how his day was, he erupts, calling it a stupid question and questioning my boyfriend's intelligence. Now he has a girlfriend around 21 or 22 years old, who disliked me long before she even had a valid reason to. The first time I met her, she informed me about how aggressive her boyfriend is, claiming he doesn't allow her to speak in the car because it interrupts him and that he yells at her. Apparently, you cannot say anything to him without him getting angry. Within a month of dating, this girl witnessed everything we experienced but chose to remain. Perhaps it should have raised a red flag when the first thing we heard from her was her speaking negatively about him, on his birthday and behind his back, because the months that followed have been even more challenging than the ones prior. This girl loves to gossip about others, and despite dealing with the same person and encountering similar issues as I do, albeit she doesn't live with him, so it's probably on a different scale, and I am sure she sees more of his good side than I do. She has twisted the entire situation to portray me as the villain. Their arguments are utterly ridiculous. We hear what they say about us because they discuss it with my boyfriend's best friend and family members. They distort stories or fabricate entirely false narratives, claiming that I am a controlling psycho and that I have prohibited him from doing certain things in our home, like using specific mugs, which honestly does not concern me at all. I have never claimed he cannot do certain things. Rather, I have insisted that he needs to treat others with respect and handle shared items appropriately. He will initiate a conflict simply over me requesting that he manages something in a better manner and will start shouting. He fixates on my use of the word, my, possibly thinking I am implying that everything is mine and not his. However, what I truly mean is that it belongs to someone else, so it should be treated with more care, especially since this is our first house, which has required time and significant financial investment to furnish. He does not seem to respect or understand this perspective. When she arrived, she began acting like a mean girl in my own home. She ignored me when I spoke, shot me disdainful looks when I asked if she wanted a drink, never greeted me, excluded me from conversations, stirred up drama with my friends, lied about us to others, and obsessively talked about me behind my back, according to what I have been told. After treating me this way for weeks, they left scratched and food-covered dishes in our cupboards. I was understandably upset. It felt like a personal attack, and I am sure many others would have felt the same. I told her she was not welcome to use any of our cookware and that she owed an apology, which she never provided. Her brother yelled at me, as he tends to do, saying, "Nobody likes you. Everyone talks poorly about you. Our mutual friend hates you." After that, she came over and cooked in the kitchen, despite my clear request to my boyfriend and his brother not to allow her access. Following all the drama, spitefulness, and disrespect, I almost left my wonderful boyfriend at that moment. I retreated to our room and remained silent. Months passed and nothing changed. She continued to be exceedingly rude and disrespectful, and he mirrored her behavior. it is important to note that I am typically a quiet and laid-back person. Even if I dislike someone, I tend not to say anything derogatory, although I often wish I had the courage to speak up. When the holidays arrived, my boyfriend and I planned to visit his family for the first time since we started our relationship. His best friend wanted to join and decided to drive, so the brother hitched a ride with him. At one point, he changed his plans and intended not to go, which made the brother furious. He began yelling at my boyfriend. Ultimately, he did attend the gathering with his brother, who did not contribute to the gas expenses throughout their lengthy drive. We arrived first, and everything seemed fine. However, it became nothing but drama and anxiety for an entire week after they arrived. We had previously gone to dinner with them a few weeks prior to establish rapport, finalize our trip plans, and encountered no problems during that dinner, which was the last time I had seen her. He had been dating this girl for maybe 8 months, bringing her along on the trip, which was fine as long as she didn't act like a drama queen. Unfortunately, that was not the case. As soon as they arrived, they began making plans with the family without including us. Apparently, she spoke negatively about me, and so did he, throughout the entire duration of the trip. The things I have learned about how they perceive me have been incredibly painful and simply lies. For example, she is upset that my friend discarded an empty product in the bathroom while she was living there, and she cannot seem to let it go. Somehow, this has been twisted into something that is my fault. We even offered to replace the item for her, but she declined and remains angry about it 6 months later. She has told the family that my friend stole her product. We all witnessed her retrieving it from the trash after she threw a tantrum about it. Regardless, I remained silent during this entire ordeal, and his family even informed me how much of a red flag she is, acknowledging that I did not say a word against her or anyone else, for that matter, even though we had arrived a day early. Her behavior has only deepened the already strained relationship between the brothers. At one point, my boyfriend asked the brother why he was excluding us, and the brother responded by saying, "What the hell are you talking about? Don't think you can speak to me like that. I will punch you in the mouth," as if he were a grown man. They managed to work things out whatever. I thought we were all good. The following day, she confronted me while I was spending time with their mother. We had a conversation, and unbeknownst to me, she recorded the entire discussion. During our chat, I still did not speak poorly about her, merely stating that her brother has anger issues and treats people poorly, which I maintained to be true. She claimed that everything is my fault and insisted that I could discuss it with him or her, to which I responded, "No, I will not converse with someone who treats me poorly or yells at me every time I attempt to speak." She insulted me repeatedly in the recording, claiming they don't like me because of my boyfriend, which might hold some validity if they actually had a relationship with him or genuinely cared about his best interest, but they clearly do not. She suggested I would need to kiss her ass to earn her approval. Once again, she has consistently treated me poorly in my own home. Whatever, those who heard the recording said I sounded significantly more authentic than she did. A day later, my boyfriend overheard the brother yelling at his girlfriend in our Airbnb. We had stepped out to get gas and returned to see whether they were ready, and he exclaimed, "I don't like your fing attitude, and I don't even like my fing brother." My boyfriend was hurt. He confronted the brother in line for food, and the brother's entire demeanor shifted once he realized he had been caught, but fortunately, he managed to leave the situation. Later, when we arrived at a train station a minute or two after them, they abandoned us on the platform. They neglected to purchase our tickets but bought tickets for everyone else. We did not speak to them for the remainder of the trip. Upon their return home, we had an honest conversation with the family, and everything was clarified. They recognized that the brother and his girlfriend are problematic, but declined to get involved. Once we returned home, the brothers had a discussion wherein the problematic one played the recording that I was unaware of at the time. My partner stood by me, asserting that the brother needed to stop treating us poorly, as we were on the verge of kicking him out, along with declaring that his girlfriend was unwelcome in our home. Approximately a month has passed, and she has made 3 visits since then. Am I the one in the wrong? I genuinely want to comprehend why I am perceived as the terrible person, why I am being targeted, and whether I genuinely did something that could be resolved. I do not want to live this way. I loathe drama, and I am unwilling to tolerate other people's nonsense. I would never have dragged so many people close to us into this situation, and it is deeply embarrassing that they have created such a substantial mess. Perhaps we failed to establish firm boundaries early on, which allowed it to escalate to this point, but I truly desire a peaceful resolution. Story 3. Is my friend, F24, messing with me or holding back feelings? We attend college together and first met in an introduction to philosophy class. He was seated across from me, and we were required to introduce one another to the rest of the class. I soon realized that we were both quite talkative and shared a similar communication style and sense of humor. After class, I was absent-mindedly kicking the table leg until I looked down and discovered that I had been nudging his foot the entire time. I felt embarrassed for inadvertently playing footsies with an attractive stranger. When I glanced up, he was sporting the most amused expression. Unable to conceal my discomfort, I squirmed in my seat and offered an apology. He found the situation quite funny, mentioning that I had been kicking him for some time and that he had merely decided not to move his foot until I became aware of what I was doing. From that moment, we connected instantly. He joined my friend and me for lunch, where we conversed for an extended period. It occupied my thoughts for some time because although it was embarrassing, it was also humorous. It was a charming way to make a friend. I eagerly anticipated Fridays when we had class together and could spend the entire afternoon together. We lingered after class whenever possible because we genuinely enjoyed one another's company. During the break, we began to communicate through direct messages. While this was somewhat sporadic, there came a time when our exchanges became more frequent to the point that I asked if he was flirting with me. I feel as if there is something bubbling beneath the surface, but I am struggling to determine whether I am confusing friendship with my own attraction to him. Honestly, I am uncertain. We communicated quite a bit during the break. Not in an all-encompassing manner, but we shared ongoing conversations and playful banter that flirted with the idea of something more. Much of what we said could be interpreted in various ways. It felt charged and enticing. He maintains that he is just talking to a friend, but it does not seem that way. Our conversations were enough for my boyfriend, 22 years old, to notice and question me about it. We are genuinely just friends, yet I find my admiration for him increasing. Certain things he says and does imply that it may not be entirely platonic, or perhaps we simply get along exceptionally well. I spoke with others in our group, and they did not interact with him during the holidays. I was the only one with whom he consistently engaged in conversation. I find myself assessing the signs of chemistry and attraction, and I have noted that he treats me differently. We often sit closely during discussions, engaging in intellectual sparring with one another. Many other factors could indicate something or nothing at all. We typically face each other during tutorials, and from the outset, there has been an evident ease and comfort between us. The first time we were alone together, he picked me up as we headed to lunch with the group, and it felt somewhat awkward. He couldn't stop talking, explaining everything about his favorite shows and venting about the other drivers on the road, but he did so in a calm and composed manner that I hadn't witnessed before. I feel a pull toward him, yet my instinct tells me there's an element of reciprocity that I cannot confirm. I suspect his restraint signifies something, yet I am unsure what it is. I think we are both being careful to avoid complicating matters. At least, that's the impression I get. However, I could be mistaken. It may all simply be me projecting my thoughts. When we went out to lunch with the group, Jordan and I arrived early because he picked me up. We sat across from each other and decided to share one of the premium sets for cost efficiency. He even prepared the Korean barbecue meat and cooked it for me. I reciprocated by giving him all the meat I couldn't finish. It felt slightly awkward before the others arrived. I was so distracted that I couldn't concentrate. His gaze is very intense. Afterward, we went to an arcade with the group, where he outperformed all of us in the games, an impressive and attractive feat, truthfully. I observed that he was genuinely smiling and seemed to be enjoying himself. During one of the games, we each took turns challenging him, and he decisively defeated us. In the final round of our mini-tournament, after his victory, there was a fleeting moment of celebration where he appeared to glow. We locked eyes for what felt like an eternity, as if struck by lightning. He seemed to be assessing how impressed I was by him. Yet I could be wrong. It's a myriad of little things. He insists that he is not making advances toward me and that he is merely communicating with a friend. However, I find it difficult to believe that he is not feeling some kind of attraction. I am perplexed about the nature of my feelings. When we first met, I felt disappointed that I was not single. I thought to myself, this energy is what I have been missing. The way we interact feels special. There are face-to-face moments that seem significant. I truly value our friendship. I wouldn't want to complicate matters and risk losing a rare friend simply because I am unable to manage my feelings. The reality is that I have been attracted to others outside my relationship previously. Recently, someone else revealed their feelings for me, which really unsettled me. I no longer communicate with him because he disregarded my request to discuss the situation and establish boundaries. I had been interested in another guy, 25 years old, for years, and he chose to express interest in the worst possible manner at the worst possible time, and he managed the consequences poorly. I know what attraction and chemistry feel like, the kind of sexual tension that lingers, but this situation is different. I am concerned that I am misreading signals and confusing myself. Yet, I cannot shake the feeling that my philosophy friend and I are connecting on a level that remains unspoken. For instance, whenever our group discusses dating or attraction, I have been open about the types of men I find appealing. On one occasion, he focused on that he asked to see their Instagram profiles, scrolled through them, and made comments. But then, one day, after I described my type, he smirked and said, "Well, I check all those boxes." It was obviously a joke, but it created an unmistakable awkwardness within the group that lingered for several seconds. Additionally, there was a particularly memorable moment when I was sharing my dating experiences during my single days, and he suddenly exclaimed, "These men have been inside you." The manner in which he said it, half joking, half incredulous, was so odd that another member of the group felt compelled to interject, stating that no one else viewed me that way. At times, it seems as though he is testing boundaries, seeing how far he can push things while remaining plausible deniable. Yet there have been instances where his comments were so overtly suggestive that I had to pause and wonder if he was actually hinting at something more profound. And then, there's the undeniable fact. My relationship has been unstable for a while. My friend is aware that I am in a relationship. If he does harbor feelings for me, I suspect he is not the type to openly pursue someone who is already involved. Yet I still cannot shake the notion that he is withholding something. It seems as if he is purposely holding back. I have drawn 3 conclusions. 1. He is merely a flirt who enjoys eliciting reactions from me, but it does not hold any weight. 2. He harbors some level of attraction, but is intentionally restraining it due to my relationship. 3. He truly has feelings but is hesitant to acknowledge them because he is uncertain about my feelings. I recognize that I am too enmeshed in the situation and need an external viewpoint. Am I imagining this? Are there mutual feelings? Whenever I attempt to address it or confront him, he deflects. He leans further into ambiguity, saying things like, "I'm sure you'll have fun with whatever is going on in your mind while I remain completely oblivious. Please help provide clarity. I am not seeking to leave my relationship, nor do I wish to pursue anything while still committed. I am simply caught in a cycle of overthinking and could greatly benefit from a fresh perspective." Story 4. My girlfriend, F32, feels an imbalance between us and doesn't feel supported by me, F26. Hello everyone. I need some external insight regarding my relationship because I am feeling quite hurt and uncertain if my reactions are justified. I have been in a romantic relationship with my girlfriend for over a month, and I care for her deeply. This is my first official relationship with a woman, and I sincerely hope for its longevity. When times are positive, everything is fantastic, but recently I have begun to feel insecure and uncertain about our connection. My girlfriend recently sent me an extensive message expressing that she perceives our relationship as imbalanced. She believes I do not check in on her sufficiently and feels that I can be self-centered at times. Additionally, she mentioned feeling unsupported during a significant workshop she organized and voiced dissatisfaction after an intimate evening together. While she recognized the efforts I make, she implied that she feels she contributes more overall. I must admit, I feel completely blindsided by this feedback. I strive diligently to demonstrate my affection for her. For instance, I worked extra hours and still left the office early, which isn't typically allowed, to attend her workshop. I traveled over an hour in a snowstorm to assist her in setting up. A friend drove me, but she expressed her worries about the snow, and her car even got stuck, leaving me quite overwhelmed. I promised her I would do anything she needed in return to show my gratitude. My girlfriend was upset that I did not inquire about the last-minute preparations, but I arrived at her venue an hour early to lend a hand, which confuses me. I did ask her how things were progressing and how I could assist her, considering I had been working all day beforehand. Throughout that day, I kept checking in to see how she felt and if she needed anything, and she consistently assured me that everything was okay. I did the same prior to our disagreement, and although she maintained that all was well, she gave me the cold shoulder. For Valentine's Day, I invested considerable thought into my gifts. I created a personalized mixtape, picked out flowers and chocolate, booked a movie, arranged for a macaron and tea outing, and purchased tickets to the insectarium. I aim to be emotionally available and ensure she feels supported. She often discusses her previous relationships, and I have been there to support her. Since she is technically still married, she has been under significant stress from her ex's contact, and she is also in touch with a woman and a man from her past. It's a long story, but I try to be understanding and listen as much as possible. While watching the movie I selected for us, she expressed her dislike for it and repeatedly checked her phone to text. I provided drinks and popcorn and even ordered the ride for us. Everyone applauded at the end of the film, but she appeared irritated, and I apologized. When I asked if she preferred taking the bus or metro, she checked the route on her phone but became confused. I reassured her that I knew where we needed to go, yet she became frustrated that I hadn't informed her sooner. I was merely hoping she would communicate her transportation preference. During a conversation about coming out to her mother, I did not intend to shift the focus onto myself. In previous discussions, I had been supportive, so I shared that I would also come out to my grandmother in solidarity. After receiving her text about this, I apologized, clarifying that I aimed to be supportive and did not wish to make the conversation about me. Despite all I have done, I feel that my efforts often go unnoticed or are overshadowed by the times she feels I have disappointed her. On the night she expressed dissatisfaction, I genuinely tried to ensure her comfort. I reached a climax, which made me emotional, an experience I had never encountered before, and needed a moment to gather myself, yet I still asked her what I could do for her. She stated that I was already making her feel good, then turned away from me and started texting. The following day, she expressed that I had left her unfulfilled. I inquired about what I could have done differently, but she simply told me to listen to her body. I felt confused because I had aimed to interpret her signals and respect her desires, especially since she was on her period and had previously indicated a dislike for penetration. I was uncertain whether she wanted me to use the toy she had purchased for us or if she preferred an alternative. She usually employs a sponge and had mentioned before that it allowed her to enjoy intimacy, but I was unclear about whether she was using one and what she was comfortable with. Anyway, I told her I sensed a shift in the atmosphere since she had turned her back to me, but she assured me that everything was fine. The next day, I prepared avocado toast with salmon and coffee for her. She continued to act differently, but instead of expressing her feelings in the moment, she withdrew and later texted me about my perceived shortcomings. I asked her to let me know if anything bothered her, but she insisted that everything was fine before leaving. I sent her another message explaining that I sensed something was amiss, but did not want to pressure her by asking again, leading her to send me a lengthy message expressing her feelings. She is criticizing me for focusing too much on my own emotions and needs, including discussions about my family, feelings, and personal life, without checking in on her in the same manner. She feels that during significant moments, such as her workshop where she stepped out of her comfort zone, I was not as present or supportive as she required, despite my efforts in creating thoughtful gifts and arrangements. In essence, she believes that the reciprocal care and effort in our relationship are lacking from my side. Moreover, it has been disheartening to hear her call me a fuckboy in the past and now label me as self-absorbed, despite the considerable effort I invest. It leaves me feeling as though no matter what I do, it will never be sufficient. When I attempt to communicate my feelings, I often feel dismissed. She has told me she needs space, and I have respected her request, but I don't find it fair to be left alone with my emotions when I am clearly hurting. Whenever I seek clarification or express my sense of being unappreciated, she insists that I am repeating myself or that I am overwhelming her. It feels as though my emotions are considered a burden, yet I believe anyone in my position would feel sad and confused. At this juncture, I am uncertain about the best way to proceed. I dislike going to bed feeling anxious multiple nights consecutively, and I want to avoid falling into a cycle where I am constantly trying to demonstrate my love while my feelings are disregarded. I do not feel listened to, and I detest the sensation of needing to tread carefully when all I wish to do is express myself. How can I address this situation without creating further distance?